I was born in 1983, 6 years before the wall came down, in Zwickau, in East Germany. The state I lived in and I was born into had rules, institutions, and a constitution. So on paper, a complete system. But there was something strange about it. The people inside it could not act. You couldn't say what you thought. You couldn't decide how to live, where to travel, what to study. So the state existed, but the people had no way to reach it. A system and a society completely out of sync. In 1989, the gap collapsed, and you all know the images. It was a rare moment of collective agency. And the message was very clear. We are not separate from the state anymore. Our actions matter. A lesson I took from my childhood is this: a system doesn't work because it exists. A system works when people can act effectively within it. Right now, I am seeing that same gap open again. Not in a dictatorship, in our democracies. Not by force, by complexity. And AI. So I'm wondering, why is our democratic system failing, and what can we do? I have spent my adult life as an impact entrepreneur trying to build effective systems. In 2015, I co-founded a small social network that would later become Germany's largest neighborhood platform. Back then, I immediately came up with 3 rules. Be kind, be honest, and be helpful. Because I wanted to keep it very simple and applicable for our local communities. Unfortunately, I had to realize 3 rules work beautifully for 10 people, for 100, maybe even for 1,000, but the platform grew to almost 5 million neighbors. And so did the challenges of keeping things respectful and peaceful. And I guess anyone who spent time on social media knows 3 rules are not enough. Rules are one of humanity's greatest inventions because they replace the law of the strongest by something else, equality. So what applies to you applies to me, and that in turn is the heart of democracy. So rules are, for a very good reason, the foundation of how we live together. Now imagine what it takes for around 80 million here in Germany, for example, in a reality that keeps getting more complex and where every new reality demands new rules. Today, we have more rules than ever. But they are no longer clear, no longer applicable, not even by the officials who should enforce them. And in a world being reshaped by AI faster, much faster than we can understand it, this is no longer a small problem. It is the problem. Picture this woman. She's a single mother. She works, but the money isn't enough. In Germany, we have more than 150 different benefits for families like hers. Each benefit has its own form, and some benefits cancel each other out. So in the end, most families don't get what they should. The rules are so tangled that even the administrators struggle to apply them. So in the end, everyone involved in this feels powerless, stuck. And this isn't an isolated story. According to the OECD, 7 in 10 people in our democracies believe what they do doesn't change anything. Now, we still believe in democracy as an idea, right? I mean, I certainly do, but we don't feel part of it anymore. Rules only work if we can understand them. Only then we can plan, act, decide. And a fair state has to make sure rules can be applied. But it doesn't, because the system is overwhelmed by its own complexity. So what can we do to get ourselves and the state back in motion? The most dominant reflex is the call for simplification. For example, tax laws, simple enough to fit on a beer mat, suggested 20 years ago, already 20 years ago, by the same man who is now running this country. Or worse, populism, complex problems reduced to simple enemies. Leave the EU, cut welfare, blame minorities. And the result? Discrimination, and the rule of law is undermined. So simplifying might sound charming with a beer mat. With everything else, not really. So wouldn't it be a lot smarter in today's world to simply automate all this complexity? And that's where AI enters the picture. At light speed, I have to add. The solution to all our problems. People want faster services, companies are buckling under complex regulations, and AI stands ready. It's never sick, it's never tired, it's just fast and efficient. By 2028, 80% of governments worldwide will use AI to handle routine decision-making. That's a forecast from Gartner. So while we keep arguing whether AI should take over, it already is. Unfortunately, not as a conscious decision, as a default. And defaults are the most dangerous kind of choice, because in the end, no one feels responsible. I can give you an example. In 2019, the Dutch tax authority system used a self-learning algorithm to detect fraud in childcare benefits. The algorithm flagged thousands of families, but most of them were innocent. As a consequence, people lost their homes, marriages broke, thousands of children were taken away from their parents, and some parents even took their own lives. The worst part was not that an algorithm made mistakes, it was that no one could argue with it. The families didn't know why they had been accused, and even the caseworkers who were supposed to review each case manually got just a score. A thumbs up and a thumbs down. Black box. You can't reproduce it, you can't take it to court. The tool had a fundamental flaw. It decided by probability. That's how AI works in its core, right? By probability, not by rule. But that's not enough when it comes to law. Decisions can't be guesses. We need decisions we can check. Same case, same outcome, every time. And there's something else. AI can read and interpret a law, but it cannot apply it because that's legal logic, not semantics. So AI alone won't save us. It will only make the crisis of our democracy louder. I still believe AI belongs in the state, though. But the question is, where? So let me show you something. That is what law looks like. Pages and pages of dense text. That's the EU AI Act, by the way. We treat it as if it were a story to read. But it isn't a story, it's a hidden structure of legal logic. Lawyers don't think in sentences, they think in questions. Who's acting? What follows from that? And they reconstruct that logic in their head every time from scratch. Over 20 years ago, German law professor Stefan Breidenbach started asking questions. Why do we keep failing to bring law to the digital age? And why do we squeeze the logic of law into text when it's actually a structure? So he made that structure visible and called it rule mapping. Now that's the same kind of rule, just drawn instead of written. On the left, the relevant question. Behind it, all its conditions connected with only up to 6 different operators. That's it. That's all it takes to write down any rule in the world, even the most complex ones we have. Now, everyone can read and apply it at the same time, even machines can. Rule mapping is a way of visualizing rules, the same way notes are a way of visualizing music, so an orchestra in Berlin can play the same symphony as one in Tokyo. And now we finally have what was missing in the Netherlands: an architecture that's traceable and automated end to end. And on this foundation, something becomes possible that wasn't possible before, using AI responsibly, democratically, in exactly 3 places. Before the logic, AI reads documents, letters, applications, pages and pages of dense text, piles of paper, and turns it into the data the law needs. Inside the logic, at specific points where the question is about meaning. So, for example, an airport can only be built if there's no protected species in that spot. So the AI reads hundreds and hundreds of pages of the environmental report, finds the Zauneidechse, it's a small protected lizard and very well known here in Germany, and answers that question, but only that. And after the logic, AI explains the decision in a language that people can actually understand. That's AI in the right places, serving the legal logic, never replacing it. So everything happening between law and decision is no longer a black box. It's visible, it's understandable, it's deterministic, it's super fast, and most importantly, it's ours to shape. So here's the point. AI will not create a functioning democracy. Instead, we will understand our state even less, will trust it even less, and we will see it become more unfair. But on rules and architecture, we can follow again, trust again. AI can certainly help. Let me come back to where I started. A system doesn't work because it exists. A system works when people can act effectively within it. I believe that has never been more true than now. So while we still can, let's decide what AI amplifies: the chaos or the people. Thank you.